When I started to really kind of watch movie making, I remember seeing this picture in Apocalypse Now.
It takes a brain to be a good photographer. With Brando, you didn't know what you were facing. But Dennis Hopper was easy because he made pictures for you. He really would give you the picture. But Brando was more tricky. You couldn't really ask him because he could say no like that. You have to understand what makes a picture.
My 20 years plus in this business has been a bit of a photographer education for me. Your eyes in the camera and just experiencing the world in a way I'd never had before. I hitchhiked around the world when I was about 18, 19 years old. And I think my interest and passion for photography probably started on that trip. And then almost immediately after that trip ended, my modeling career started. And so then I got to see the world.
I've had the rare opportunity to meet many amazing photographers who move through the different landscapes to create powerful images. I'm always inspired by how these images transform the way we see people and understand the world. A great photograph needs no explanation, but on Capture, these incredible people tell the story of creating their most memorable images. I'm Mark Seliger, and this is Capture. Hi, I'm Mark Seliger, and welcome to Capture. I'm here with Mary Ellen Mark, photojournalist and portrait photographer whose work has changed, I think, the scope of modern photography. Also, Helena Christensen, supermodel, photographer, entrepreneur, creative director of Nylon.
I co-found Nylon, yeah.
It's great to have you two here, and the two of you who have a relationship as teacher and student.
And friends.
And friends, to see your work grow from the inspiration that Mary Ellen has given our world in photography. Mary Ellen, you stopped being a cheerleader,
You
right?
have to remind me of that.
And you were a
cheerleader?
I was a head cheerleader.
Oh
yeah,
my gosh,
head
that's
cheerleader.
awesome.
So when your career as a cheerleader stopped.
And then I came to New York and started to work.
My first experience getting to know your work was your Mother Teresa work. It was very compelling to me because it was photojournalism, but there was also this very soulful and creative way that the images were presented.
I've never really thought of myself as a photojournalist, more of a documentary photographer. I always try and make each image stand on its own. When I did those pictures, I mean, it was at a time when magazines were really open to giving you that opportunity. Magazines were like grants for me. They gave me these amazing opportunities to do my own work.
Helena, you've been probably the most photographed woman in the last,
Denmark.
the last couple of decades.
No, maybe in the world.
How did you being in front of the camera influence you being behind the camera?
I do think that as a model, you give something that has to come naturally. When I'm behind the camera, I seem to stop breathing because I get so captivated by the moment. It's almost like everything just comes to a standstill. Anytime I take photographs, I definitely think of all the photographers I work with and wonder what would they do in this moment, Mary Ellen being one of them.
Mary Ellen, is there a story behind these two images?
That's something in Oaxaca that we got access to. Oaxaca's a beautiful place. It's very mysterious. We photographed in the morgue there. I never showed those images. I could sort of look at anything after that experience. The guy that ran the morgue, we called him Dr. Death.
It's creepy.
Well, he was actually really nice.
Oh, okay.
But the morgue is incredible. It was just amazing there. It has a lot of mystery and beauty. It hasn't been spoiled.
It's poetic.
It is poetic.
That's why I went as a student in one of Mary Ellen's workshops. When I found out that she was even having workshops, it was like, are you kidding me? The thought of like you can go and work with her and learn from her, that was just such an amazing thing for me that I was like, okay, I'm gonna sign up, send in my photographs and see if it, happens, and it did.
This picture.
Oh my God. Was that Oaxaca?
No, it was not Oaxaca. You know what's so strange about that photo? I don't even know where I took it, and the negative was glued together with a piece of paper, so when I pulled it apart, obviously all that white stuff, which looks like ice on a window.
But that's just from the process, huh?
Yeah.
And here's another beautiful picture.
It's from my trip
I gotta
to
get a
Oaxaca.
copy of this. We gotta trade, girl.
A strange way, this looks like you, but with brown eyes.
It actually does look like
Does
you.
the mouth.
I was just thinking that.
It does. It's beautiful.
And what you don't really see here, there's a roll of thread, of gold thread.
Yeah.
That was
It's
just lying there
beautiful.
next to her. But she looked so like she was somewhere completely different in her head, in her mind.
She's looking, she's seeing you. She sees something of herself in you. Definitely.
It was at the circus.
In your body of work, Indian circus, did that intimacy and also the gypsy quality of the circus almost make it more photogenic and romantic?
Well, Indian
So
circus
iconic.
was perfect for me. I mean, it was an amazing experience of just looking at great things to photograph constantly. And, and just walking in front of your camera, you didn't have to do anything. They just appear. Well, India's like that,
How long did you spend on the project?
I spent 6 months on it. I made 2 trips, but then I went back, so more than 6 months. We did 18 different circuses.
And were they all very similar in terms of the size and what they kind of offered?
No,
Was
some
it-
were very small and some were quite large. I went to Mexico and made some photographs there, but it wasn't the same thing. I mean, nothing quite matched the great imagination of India. Everything was so beautiful there. It was just amazing. It was an amazing time. I feel it just was right there in front of me. I don't know how much I did. It just, appeared. Each circus was more visual than the next. I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was just so beautiful.
When does Volume 2 come out?
To go back, I don't think it's probably changed. It's more difficult now because they don't have animals in the circuses there anymore.
Helena, I want you to give us a little bit of a background about your relationship with these photographs.
I started working with Oxfam about 3-4 years ago. My first trip was to Peru, which was a very personal and emotionally beautiful experience to me. My mother is from Peru. A lot of these pictures are from some of those tiny little villages that we went to visit. We don't live in these areas, so we're not affected the same way. When you're in it, you feel it in a way that's inexplicable. They now don't wear the traditional costumes anymore. We're losing some of the most beautiful cultures.
He's so happy you're taking his picture.
This was very strange. I walked down a little street and, you look into windows and into doors like we would always do, And I see this guy standing on a table, brooming the table. And he's brooming it with that smile on his face and all those paintings and photographs hanging in the back. And he never changed. He just stood like that, brooming, smiling. And it was just one of those moments where you're like, your adrenaline just, kicks in because you're like, oh, this is one of those. You'll never see this again ever in your life. And now you have it on a piece of paper for the rest of your life.
I feel like the photographs that you have in your house are the photographs that inspire you every day. One of my coveted photographs that I keep close to my heart and my apartment is this one, which I have always loved.
That was in Barcelona in a gypsy camp. It was done in one of those day in the life projects, which used to be great because you got to go to all over the world and just take pictures. So this was a day in the life of Spain. I have a friend who's a doctor, and he was working in this camp So he got me access to this gypsy camp in Barcelona. And they had these masks on, and they just had a great sense of fantasy and beauty. I mean, it's something that I guess I look for in pictures, is something that has a sense of otherworldliness. And it was just incredible. But when I did those pictures, it was at a totally different time in the world of photography. I mean, it was before cable television, before the internet. One was able to get much more access. I have a theory that I think it's easier being a woman to go out on the street and approach people, much easier. I can knock on a door and walk in the house. I think it's harder for a man, especially when it comes to children. You know, definitely, and more so.
You gave me one of the best advice in photographing children. You need to get down in the height with them. You need to lower down so that you are in their world, in their height, so that they see you, so you create a contact directly between you and the child.
It's harder now. Access is harder because of the internet, too, and it's something you have to think about.
Do you find that people, since you have a public persona, do you think people are willing to give you time to work with them and be photographed?
It's very hard, like Mary Ellen was saying. People are very guarded more and more. I don't feel comfortable when people walk up to you in the street and just stick a camera in your face. I don't think anyone does, and it's still that sense of that you're guarding something that's, you know, it's a personal, it's like your soul. So that's kind of what I feel you do with your portraits. You get the raw essence of these people, no matter how they're dressed up, no matter how they're made up. You go right through to the core of them.
I try and do that. It's a little more difficult to do that with famous people. It was easier to do that with famous people in the beginning. You get to watch great people work, but it's like taking photographs in a museum because it's not your work.
That was an incredible moment with Fellini.
You know, I think working on a film set, if the director really loves and appreciates photography, you are able to get good pictures. You get to see the best people work. I learned a lot about how to direct people. When you do direct, you know, when you're working with an actor, you have to take control. And a great actor will help you, and Johnny Depp helps you.
You also integrated yourself with your subject. You became very close with them and made them trust you. And sometimes I feel like that is what you need to get an amazing photograph, portrait of anyone. I just shot Kate. It's Kate Bosworth, and I've known her for many years. But then to photograph someone that you know is the first time I photographed her.
It's harder, don't you think, to
Well,
photograph someone you know?
actually, with Kate, it was just a really beautiful experience because she just got in front of the camera and went into this zone. It was a completely silent shoot between us. We never even said anything. Just, you know, she just got into this headspace, and I just followed her in there.
I love this photograph.
You know, I've never understood why people like this picture. I think I have so much stronger pictures. For some reason, that picture became an iconic picture.
I think it's her body language. I think it's the combination of, you know, that trust and the composition.
It's the way she's styled. It's the way she's dressed. And, you know, often in a photograph, we don't think about this, but even if you see on the street someone and you take their picture, how they're dressed helps make the picture. I think fashion's really hard, too, though. I bet you're great at it. There's something you have to understand about fashion when you do it. It's not just taking a picture of like a beautiful woman in clothes.
Well, you look at photographs from the 50s and 60s,
wow,
all the
think,
Robert Frank photographs, and you're like, oh, why can't people just dress like that nowadays?
Exactly.
One of my first cameras was the Polaroid, and still is. I kind of hide them everywhere in my apartment so that I don't access them very easily.
Yeah.
And then when I find them, I am so excited and thrilled. But, you know, they're so out of date. Now I only use it for very special occasions because they don't make the film anymore.
Yeah.
I always found with portraits and Polaroid that the Polaroid was always the best.
Yeah, they're beautiful. I've collected my Polaroids too, 4x5. Yeah, and then you think, why didn't I get that?
I mean, we think about film being such a long ways from where we are now, but it really wasn't that long ago. You've been very vocal and very strong-willed towards being analog and staying analog and not allowing that to change, right?
I know, and I've suffered from it. I've suffered for it because, like, camera companies, like, they don't want to know you anymore. Like with Leica, I mean, I still work with the Leica, but my Leica's 25 years old, and it takes fantastic pictures still. But Leica used to love me and, you know, give me all kinds of equipment. They don't really want to know me anymore. Hasselblad loved me. All of these companies, because I'm shooting analog. But what they don't realize, it's not what you shoot with, it's the pictures you make.
Right. That's 6 inches behind the camera.
Well, right, it's what you take a picture of. It's nothing to do with the technology. And the people you sell cameras to aren't going to say, oh, that's great because it was shot digitally, or that's great because it was shot analog. It doesn't matter. It's the picture you take. You know, editing is really important to learn how to edit.
It's very important, and I feel with contact sheets, which we're now losing, because no one ever gets contact sheets back anymore and sits with the 24 or 36 images. But now that I look back at my old contact sheets, I see something completely different in some of the photographs that I would have never even, you know, been the least excited about maybe 15 years ago. I'm now, why didn't I blow this up?
But you should blow it up then.
Now I blow them up, and now I'm like, that is so interesting that this photo did nothing to me back then, you know? And meanwhile, I paid a fortune to like print images that are like so dull and so boring, and I would literally just tear them up right now. It's exciting that something happened, something must have happened in between that made you look at things differently, which is a good thing.
Have you seen this?
Yes.
This is your twin book, which I think is fantastic.
That picture in particular, I convinced them to finally got their pants off, and at the same time, it took me the whole time I was there to convince these two Mennonite women to be photographed. So I finally agreed, and just when I was photographing these guys in their underpants, the two Mennonite women walked in, looked at what I was doing, looked at me, and then ran out. It was kind of the same way we worked with prom in a way. Prom was much more complex. It took 4 years to do the book. This picture with the pregnant girl was taken at my own high school.
At your own high school?
Yes, Cheltenham High School.
Where you were the head cheerleader?
Head cheerleader.
Please.
Right when I was taking that picture, the principal of the high school walked in. So I thought he was going to, like, throw me out, but he didn't.
When you look at your photos that you've taken over time, there is a bit of a red line going through them, something that connects them all. People have said to me that there's some kind of silence to my photography, a quiet feeling.
Tell me about your exhibition, A Quiet Story.
That was also a very small exhibition, a personal exhibition in a way. Exhibitions are strange, I feel. You work very hard to make it happen, and then you see them up there. The moment that you see your images hanging, you suddenly wonder, were they good enough to even make this big and frame and hang on a wall and force people to come see? And that's when you add a little more alcohol to the opening night. But anyway.
Wait, to yourself or to the people around you?
Both.
Shall we do fishbowl? Mary Ellen, I have a question for you.
Okay.
How are you going to do the fishbowl? What's the best way to discover new photographers today?
That's what's inspiring about teaching, is to see new people whose work is really, really powerful. It's hard because you don't know now, because the outlets for work are limited. With magazines are so changed, and you don't know what to say to them almost. Just to go and do your own work. I say be an artist, even if you have to do something else. Take photographs because you love to take them. That's what you should do. And I've seen some really young people whose work is really amazing. I have.
Mary Ellen, ask Helena a question. You pull one of these out and you ask her the question.
I hate this question. Can I
Okay,
take another one?
do whatever you want. Here.
I saw that question and I want to answer that one.
Okay. What photographers inspired you the most?
The three photographers that have had the most impact on me that I can see now after taking photographs for 20 years would definitely be Robert Frank, Sally Mann, so then there's four, Diane Arbus, and Mark. It's so amazing to be here and to have a conversation with one of the photographers that I so admire. I don't think there's anyone else who's taken portraits and shown them to me in a way that almost feels like it's the only way that you can take portraits of people. It feels so right, and they're so mind-blowing, and there's no other photographer who has done that with portrait photography and affected me that way. It gives you goosebumps.
It's really nice of you to say that. I don't deserve that, but it's really nice of you.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming today. Mary Ellen Mark, my hero and my new hero, Helena Christensen. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wonderful stories and being a part of the show Capture, both of you. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Hi, I'm Mark Seliger on the set of Capture. And with me are the exceptional photographers Mary Ellen Mark and Helena Christensen. Make sure you don't miss a single episode of the show. And how do you do that? Click the subscribe button and leave a comment if you'd like. And of course, share this with your friends.
Pharrell Williams here.
Hi, I'm Joy Bryant,
I'm Eric Ripper.
I'm Tom Colicchio.
I'm Dr. Frank Lipman, the host of On the Table,
the host of Across the Board,
Host of Artist Talk.
Host of Hooked Up.
Host of the show, Be Well Week, Be Well Weekend, on the Reserve channel.
It's only on Reserve.
Did you know that you can follow my show on social media sites like Facebook?
Follow us on Twitter.
If you're a fan of my show, hit the like button.
All of the above.
Share me with your friends.
Treat yourself. Check out a new episode of my show, Hooked Up.
And if you want to leave comments, feedback, ideas, whatever, love to hear from you. Leave a comment.
And if you don't want to miss the show, be sure to subscribe.
The one that's like down here, or is it here? Somewhere down here.
Thanks for watching the Reserve channel.
Only on YouTube. Throw caution to the wind and ask yourself what rules.